Hey everybody, AJ here, and welcome to it's the second official live stream of the Eagle Ray channel. The first one was last week, but it was more me figuring out technical difficulties. This is a brand new thing for me. I'm still learning the ropes a little bit, but I think I've got mostly everything ironed out. So the Eagle Ray channel launched about a week and a half ago. We've got 2 videos up so far. I'm going to do this every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. If you guys want to come back, or if you're watching this after the fact, you can come back to the next one. But basically, every weekend we're going to go over some electric marine news, and then we're going to watch the latest YouTube video that came out on the Eagle Ray channel. Following that, we're going to go over the latest giveaway rules. So right now I'm giving away this Milwaukee angle grinder, and we're going to talk about how you can be eligible for that. And then if there's anybody in the chat who wants to ask a question, we'll do that at the end. So I'm going to jump right into it, and we're going to talk about what's been happening lately. So I found this article about an autonomous boat project, which I thought was pretty cool. Apparently it's been going on a long time. I had never heard of this before, but MIT back in 2015 got together with the Amsterdam Institute for Advanced Metropolitan Solutions. That's a mouthful. But they're doing this project that they call Rowboat, with an R-O-B-O-A-T instead of a W in there, and that name, by the way, is obviously made by an engineer. I love it. I get it. I know why they like it, but when you get engineers in a room deciding a brand name, nobody ever says to them, "Hey, if you say this to somebody and they don't have a chance to spell it out before they actually go to their computer later to try and find the brand, they're going to type the W and they're not going to be able to find this." And the engineers in the room will be like, "Well, so what? It's still a cool name. It's not good marketing." But to be fair, this is not a boat that's ever intended to sell as a consumer product, so probably not that big a deal. The deals they would make to sell this boat are only ever going to be to governments and large corporations, because this is designed as kind of an electric ferry that can navigate itself through small canals in cities, which is pretty cool. So it can do passenger transport. They have a bunch of use cases listed here that are pretty cool. Transportation, garbage collection, goods delivery, which I don't think that's going to be very popular. And then this one is super interesting, on-demand infrastructure. So basically, if you have enough of these, you can create a bridge across any river, which is kind of awesome. I don't know how often that would get used. Like if your town has the Olympics coming up, you could probably use a bunch of these, but otherwise I think you'd just get one of them and use it as a ferry rather than getting 20 of them and crossing the entire river and blocking all the river traffic. I don't think this is actually much of a thing. It's just very interesting, and it's cool to put in an article. So the technology though is pretty cool. Before we really dig into like what this thing can do, let's just jump in and watch a really quick promo video that they created recently.
Lucy. Lucy is a rowboat, a fully autonomous, zero-emission boat that operates on urban waterways, and she can change the way cities work. As congestion and emissions continue to rise, while cities continue to grow, the existing infrastructure of many cities struggles to keep up. Rowboats offer a solution by moving road traffic to the water. By bringing passengers from A to B, or as an on-demand boat, taking you anywhere you want. And they can also help the city as a multi-purpose workboat. Take Crystal. She is equipped to collect household waste to free the streets from heavy garbage trucks. Rowboats are fully autonomous, so they navigate without a skipper and can operate 24/7. In order to sail by themselves, rowboats need to perceive their environment and recognize objects such as bridge pillars, floating objects, and of course other vessels. The primary source of information comes from a LiDAR sensor, but rowboats are also equipped with cameras, GPS, and a digital compass. Rowboat's onboard computer combines and processes all of the data and runs the rowboat software so it can successfully complete its mission plan. After 5 years of development, testing and experimentation, we have now successfully enabled autonomy on the full-scale prototypes. Rowboat is ready for the next step. Join us and let's unlock the potential of urban waterways together.
All right, checking my audio to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, I think we're good. I'm ironing out all of the bugs from last week. I had lots of audio problems, and I think we are good now. So the rowboat is a pretty cool design. I think there's a million different ways you could pull off a concept like this. This is, I think, just a concept. I imagine they only have one or two of them running in Amsterdam right now. But the design apparently took 7, 8 years to put together, and I'm sure they went through just dozens of iterations. So we're going to look closely at exactly what they've got in the current iteration, because I think it's pretty cool. Like last week, we talked a whole bunch about speedboats, basically, because that's the hot thing to bring to the Miami Boat Show. But the real forward moves, I think, in electric are going to be in other markets. Early on, we're going to see, and we've been seeing for many decades, the electric side kind of dominating in the troller category. And then as electric becomes more popular with cars, I think we're starting to see the troller category expand little by little until it's bleeding into the outboard category now. But there's an entire other side where there's all kinds of commercial applications that I think could be great for marine. Like there's towboats, there's ferries, there's all kinds of stuff that the city or state government needs to accomplish and probably would be more efficient, spend less taxpayer dollars if they did it electric. And so this is a great example of that. If we look at the specs here, you can see it's got a huge keel, because this obviously this boat is not going to be winning any speed competitions. It's a displacement hull if ever there was one, and it leans into that because electric actually does better when it's not trying to get on plane. It can operate much more efficiently at lower speeds. But if you look close, you can see two main thrusters for forward and reverse, and then there's actually two bow thrusters, one in the front and one in the back. So I love this design. It kind of gives it the ability to navigate 360. It can pan or strafe in any direction across the water because of the thruster configuration. And we're going to look a little bit closer at how that might happen in a second. But first, the deck I think was just planned as an open hull design so that it could be anything on top, basically, as long as it satisfies the weight requirements. And let's see what else we have. We have two cameras, both fisheye lenses on the front and the back, to gather data for autonomous driving. They see a boat coming by, they see a dock coming up. They're able to steer the navigation system to avoid collisions. Much simpler to do, I assume, on a boat than in a car, but still quite a challenge because your camera basically has to tell an AI to process what it's seeing, and the AI has to accurately understand that that's a boat or that's a dock, and there's going to be all kinds of edge cases where that goes wrong and you create collisions. There's huge liabilities with stuff like this, especially in a busy urban area. So it's no wonder it's taken them 8 years to actually put something on the water. I don't know if they had something on the water in Amsterdam years ago, but this article just came out like a month ago. So it looks like maybe they have been working on it in R&D for years, but this is the first time they have like something that's a little bit closer to a product to show off. This latching system is super cool. Like I have been wondering if they would do things like this for years. I've seen articles in years past of autonomous trucks being able to couple with each other for less wind resistance when you're going several hundred miles down the highway. Basically, be able to create a train out of trucks, because if they're all driven by AI, they can couple together without any danger of creating a collision between the two. Same kind of thing with boats, and this I think is a very early iteration of that. It has 6 coupling systems, 2 on the broadside and 1 on the transom and 1 on the bow. And that for this iteration, it looks like it's just important to be able to connect to a dock. When this thing pulls up to the dock, nobody has to throw a rope around it. Passenger is just trying to get across the river, use this as a ferry. The thing actually comes in, and there's these metal arms that grab onto it so that it can't go anywhere while people are boarding or disembarking. And that is pretty awesome. So each of these, you see 12 of these little units, but each of them is actually a pair. So this one and that one are like a left and right pair, and the hooks come in and grab one and the other so that it can't move anywhere. Pretty cool design. I wonder how many different versions of this they went through before they came to this one, because I really like this design a lot. I think the battery is coming up. Yeah, the battery is interesting that this battery is gigantic for the size. It's 12 watt hours. I've built batteries that are easily much larger than this at that voltage, and it's it is very interesting that they left so much space for the battery and then didn't pack it with power. But the other thing is, this thing is never going to need to go over 10 miles per hour. It doesn't actually need super high power. It needs decent range, and the range on this is not that great actually. I think it said it earlier. Let's see if we can find the range. Yep, speed is 12 kilometers per hour and 75-kilometer range. Let's do a quick conversion for my American friends because I have trouble converting off the top of my head too. So 12 kilometers per hour is 7.5 miles per hour, and 75 kilometers is a 46-mile range. So this is obviously meant to go slow, stay in the inner city, do simple jobs like ferrying someone across a river or grabbing a bag of trash and bringing it to the local dump, and that's it. And then I assume the plan with these would be to have them couple to some charging station automatically so that they can recharge just like a Roomba. It's a it's a giant floating Roomba is what it is. And I think that's everything I wanted to cover, except the battery because it doesn't pack a whole lot of power inside, there's plenty of room, I think, for all the other cool things that they would have to add in a project like this. The kind of things you would never think about wanting in a speedboat. So, say if you bought a big electric speedboat, you'd have the battery under the deck, and you'd hardly ever want to touch it. You would want to set it and forget it. That's kind of the great thing about electric versus diesel or gas. Much less maintenance involved. That battery could sit there for years and probably be fine. But in the case of something like this, where with a speedboat, you're going to drive it a dozen times a year, maybe. With a ferry or a garbage collection autonomous boat, you're going to be running that thing 7 days a week, 24/7, 365. Like it's just always on, always running. That battery is going to need regular service. And so to have it be easily accessible, they've probably got some big hatch here where a tech crew can come in and just put a crane on it and lift it right out of there. And then there's got to be access doors for each of the cell modules so that they can jump in and grab a little piece of the battery and pull it out and hot swap it. Like the serviceability, the accessibility, the safety concerns. It's in this giant aluminum case. It looks like all of these things you have to spend so much more time on when you build a boat like this rather than a recreational boat. So it looks like I mean, all we have is these little graphics, which are pretty cool. Like I like how you can play with these in 3D. Um, but it looks like they've been spending all of these years trying to perfect that, which I think is awesome because there's a million different things you could use this for. All the use cases that they listed, I think, are just scratching the surface of what we're going to see in the next 20 years. We might not see a whole lot of autonomous electric boats in the next, let's say, 24 months, right? By 2025, how many electric boats are there going to be moving themselves across the waterways in water-based cities? Not very many. But by 2030, maybe that's a different story. That's interesting how the future is on the horizon. So I think that's all I wanted to cover news-wise for today. We're going to jump back over to the Eagle Ray channel, and we're going to do a quick watch party for the latest video that came out. We're in the middle of the Yaktoon project. If you haven't seen any of these videos yet, I recommend you start with video 1. This is just the second week the Eagle Ray channel has been live, so we're on video 2 right now. This video just came out last Wednesday, and basically last week I was able to build the deck for a boat that's I call it a boat. I don't know if it's exactly fair to classify it as quite a boat. It's basically just 2 kayaks with a piece of plywood on top. So I built the deck last week. In this week's video, just a few days ago, I put that deck on the water for the first time, and some not so great things happened. If you look at the title of the video, I don't want to spoil anything too much, but yeah, it didn't last very long on the water. Let's watch it together. Video, we tried to build the cheapest electric boat that money could DIY, and it did not go very well. A much bigger cut I wanted. Whoops. In the last video, we tried to build the cheapest electric boat that money could DIY, and it did not go very well. A much bigger cut than I wanted. Whoops. There's still some tack on it. In this video, we're actually going to get this thing on the water. Hey everybody, AJ here, and welcome back to the Eagle Ray channel, where we do all things DIY electric boats. Marine motors, batteries, solar panels, you name it. If it's got... Testing the microphone right now. I don't know if... It looks like you guys can hear this AJ and not that AJ, which I've got a button push ready now, which is good. Using as pontoons, the plan is to tie the main body of each kayak to the deck above with Dyneema rigging lines, but rope is not going to quite cut it by itself. What we're going to need to do is also attach mounting points to the transom of each kayak. The tail has a fairly flat vertical surface on the back here, but I want to be careful. I don't just want to mount a wheel there. I might want to mount different kinds of motors as well in the future. I often wonder if anybody notices when I'm not wearing the same shirt. It jumps out to me immediately just because it's me, but I wonder if it's a distraction and if I should be more careful about that. Shape and then bend. And I think I can handle that part. Like, I'm not a machinist, but I can chop some aluminum, and who doesn't like hitting things with a hammer? Before I rip into some flat bar with my circular saw, I'm gonna need a template. Cardboard aided design to the rescue. Check this out. I cut this cardboard to the same thickness of my flat bar so that I could confirm this metal is going to work before I actually start wasting it. I discovered something interesting too. The back face of the kayak can work. This back face, by the way, is a completely horrible design. I did not account for the perfect shape of the transom of these kayaks before I decided to go with this 4-inch flat bar on the back. It basically acts as a giant water break, and there's the back of the kayak on this particular model kind of angles upward, so it almost like becomes its own little catamaran in the back, and it's supposed to shoot water up through the middle, and the flat bar is just right in the way of that. Parts for the transom bracket, and then we'll hire someone to weld them together. So without further ado, let's build stuff. 4 pieces of flat bar at 21 inches each. If you don't have a bandsaw or a chop saw, then a handheld will do fine in a pinch, but you absolutely must wear eye protection because the shards coming off of this will be out for blood. The handheld cuts pretty rough. Let's smooth that out. Safety first. I should have put that mask on way sooner. You don't want to be breathing in aluminum dust. It's never a good thing. Okay, so this plate here is going to go on top of the back of the kayak. That Milwaukee angle grinder, by the way, is the exact unit that we're going to be giving away for free. plate that will have any interface we need. And so really the only thing left to do now is to weld these pieces together, just like that. Funny story, actually a couple funny stories here. So I know I said that I was gonna hire a welder. I decided to take a pause on this project for a week and learn how to weld myself. So what you're looking at here is the most beginner welding job in history, but I filmed the entire process of learning how to weld over the past week, so there's going to be a video coming up about that. So I'm not going to focus too much. That's coming in a few weeks, by the way. Here is, you probably noticed these rectangular tubes are not where I said they were going to be. The shape wasn't conforming to the back of the kayak. I realized all of a sudden it's upside down, and that my first thought was I need to throw this part away and start over. But then it occurred to me, well, this is just maybe extra brackets on top, and I can make 2 more of these and also. If you know how to TIG weld, I would love for you to just rip my weld apart. Tell me everything you see there that's awful so that I can get better, because I don't really have anybody here in town that I know who's a welder. So I'm just trying to find people online who can help me out. Now, if you're worried that this hole compromises this kayak as a sit on top, you're absolutely right, but not to worry. We're gonna patch it when we're done. There we go. Never again. I do not ever want to cut a hole in a kayak ever again if I can avoid it. I know it's probably gonna happen again in my future, but it's not fun to have to patch those holes. It takes a really long time. That's not gonna work. I gotta cut a bigger hole. To repair a hole in a kayak, you need 3 things. You need chicken wire, you need a butane torch, and you need some extra filler plastic, and you can salvage that from basically anything in your fridge. Beverage containers are made out of the same material, HDPE, as your kayak is. That is actually true, but a lot of the time it's not just HDPE, so I learned that the hard way, as you're about to see. This stuff was really not working. It's a little bit too thin, and I think there's some kind of a composite film on it that was preventing it from melting the same way that this stuff does. I was able to put this piece on without any filler material whatsoever. So the butane torch was taking way too long, so I got online and I tried to figure out how the professionals do this, and it turns out they have a tool for it. This is a plastic welder, 20 bucks at the hardware store, so I figured I'd give it a try. I can already tell it makes all the difference in the world. The fact that you can apply heat and pressure at the same time is what's really gonna get me through these seams just 10 times faster than before. No one should buy this unit from Harbor Freight. It's I bought, you'll see how many of them I bought in order to finish this, but this unit is so cheap. I recommend you never ever buy it. So I'm almost done patching the second kayak, and then suddenly that happens. This is all that's left of my plastic welder after 1.5 patches to a kayak. And I really wasn't pressing that hard. I would call it medium pressure. I did not expect this thing to fall apart so quickly. I'm gonna go back and buy the $80 one and see if that one works better. Guys, every project has a moment that makes you feel like giving up. And I have a... This part's just me complaining about Harbor Freight for a minute or so. I don't like to put too much of this negative stuff in, but also I don't want you guys to buy things that you see me using and think that it's going to go well, because everything you see on this channel is an experiment. I'm figuring it out as I go along, obviously. But there are some much higher quality plastic welders out there. I believe the one that I was looking at picking up starts with a J. I think it's Junip or something along those lines. I'll have to look it up for you. I'll leave a link for it. 4 welders at Harbor Freight in order to get this job done. Don't ever buy from this company. After about a dozen uses on the water, those wheels are still working great. One of them went flat. I need to buy a bike tire pump to pump it up. So it's a little bit annoying that it kind of rolls lopsided while it's flat. It still does roll. Yeah, these wheels work great. So we've got all the lines rigged. Both sides of each of those lines are coming out the freeboard here and here. And so basically we just need to tie these together. I know how to tie a bowline knot, the rabbit through the hole and around. This part I think most people can safely ignore, because I'm sure there are ways to use rope to tie a kayak to a plywood deck. And it's probably very similar to the way people build rafts. I've seen some YouTube videos where they get into these intricate knot styles to make sure everything is just ridiculously tight. Sometimes they use extra tools to tighten it even more. If I had done something like that on this project, this rope might have worked okay, I suppose. I just didn't know how to do any of that, so I kind of winged it and just used some knots that I already knew, and it didn't end up working very well. You'll see in future videos I end up replacing all of that. It doesn't go anywhere. Now I can take this extra slack and do what you would do when you tie your shoelaces. You just make a loop, wrap it around, and tie it off. Little backstory on this. The original plan was to launch this in a weekend. I think I had the idea on a Friday in November, and I wanted to have it on the water by Monday. That was not in the cards, for sure. I think it took about 2 weeks to get it on the water for the first time. So the first 2 videos were supposed to take a day each. They ended up taking about a week instead. Guys, I'm sailing. I'm a sailor. I sail.
I'm sailing!
I know it's pretty ridiculous. It's just a tiny boat with a tiny trolling motor, but I'm pretty excited because honestly, it is the first time I've successfully navigated any body of water by myself, and I kind of love it. I've been looking forward to this for a really long time. I think I'm doing something like 2.5 miles per hour. And this is, I mean, this motor is $100 on Amazon. About 1,200 bucks into the hull. I mean, I spent more because you saw how many mistakes I made. It's right about here that the retention really dropped off for everybody who was watching it. I think everybody thought the video was over right here. But in my opinion, the best part's right about. I wasn't able to film much, but those of you who have worked with kayaks before, you probably know what I'm about to say. You remember those holes that we drilled in the transom? Yeah, those are not waterproof. And honestly, I kind of knew that. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad. I thought maybe I'd take on a gallon of water after using the boat for an hour or so, and then I'd just empty the kayaks afterwards. No, It was bad. I took on about 10 gallons in 20 minutes. Those kayaks were full of water before I could blink. Now, even though I didn't get any footage while things were going off the rails, I actually used to work in the VFX industry, so I was able to create a really high accuracy CG representation of exactly what it looked like, and here it is. I first noticed something was wrong when I couldn't steer anymore. So, as you can probably tell, I'm not much of an artist. I actually did work in the VFX industry at some of the biggest VFX studios, but I was a programmer, so I had other people on my teams who were obviously much better artists than me, and I can dabble in Photoshop a little bit and create silly memes, but that's about it. So don't expect amazing graphics on my channel. While it was still in the water, and that process took about 2 hours. So clearly this boat is not seaworthy yet, but I don't give up easily. I have 2 goals for this upcoming week. Number 1, I'm going to waterproof these kayaks, and number 2, I'm going to make sure that I can take these apart very rapidly. These bolts that are in the back take way too long. Those aren't going to cut it. I'm going to replace those with something a lot faster. Until then, thanks for watching. All right, so that is the part where I start talking about the giveaway. So I'm going to kind of do giveaway inception here and talk about it live instead. So the Milwaukee angle grinder it was one of my first power tools, and it is pretty amazing. Like, you can take this tool and cut metal, you can polish metal, you can strip paint off of metal. Like, anybody who's just building their power tool collection for the first time, like I was a couple years ago, this is the first tool you should get for sure. So you may, oh, I got ads happening. Let's turn this off. Okay. The the first power tool you should own is definitely the Milwaukee angle grinder. I started collecting power tools a couple of years ago because I was a programmer. I had never used a power tool in my life before a couple of years ago. It's probably pretty obvious that I'm kind of a beginner at a lot of this stuff. But the angle grinder was definitely one of the first things I needed. So if you have one already, but it's corded, then you might want to stick around for the live streams because this one's cordless. I am going to be throwing a Milwaukee battery in with this because those are ridiculously expensive. I try and not buy too many of those. You see a whole bunch of them on my desk, but these days I try and not buy any more because they're so stupidly expensive these days. But they do make knockoff batteries from Milwaukee, which is pretty cool. And those are a lot cheaper, and I'm going to try some of those soon on the channel. I'll let you guys know how that goes. But anyway, I'm going to give a real Milwaukee battery when I give this power tool away. So let's talk about the giveaway a little bit because I want to make sure everybody's aware of the rules. I have them linked in every video. So down here at the bottom of the description, you have a bit.ly link that says angle grinder giveaway. You just put that into a URL and it brings up my Google page to tell you exactly how the giveaway works. And basically it's pretty simple. You got to be at least 16 years old. You got to have a shipping address in the lower 48 United States. You have to have a YouTube account and an email address that are connected. And that's pretty key because I'm going to give this Milwaukee angle grinder away on a future live stream. It's basically once we hit 1,000 subscribers on the very next live stream, I'm going to give this away, and I'm going to give it away to somebody in the chat. So once we have 1,000 subscribers and the chat fills up with 100 people, that's what triggers the giveaway to happen during that chat. And if you're in that chat and you're subscribed and you have an email address I can use to contact you to get your shipping address, then you're the winner. And so in order to be eligible for that, I have to verify that you're a subscriber. So I would look at your name in the chat. I would go to your YouTube page and see whether or not you're subscribed to me. So there's this little thing here that's important to know. You don't have to turn this on YouTube in general most of the time, but when you come to the Eagle Ray giveaway, if you know the giveaway is happening that day, then you want to go into your YouTube settings and make sure keep all subscriptions private is not checked. Because if it is, then I won't be able to see that you're subscribed to me. And if you won the giveaway, then I would have to give it to somebody else instead. And other than that, it's pretty easy. The rules kind of explain like how I would verify your email address, but we don't have to go over that right now. We can, when we build the channel a little bit bigger, we can go over that in the future because the channel, as you can see, is pretty small right now. We've only been around for a week and a half, so it's humble beginnings for sure. But if you're here right now or you're watching this in the near future after this went live, you're going to be able to say that you were here when it all began. Because when we get to 1 million subscribers, you're going to be able to say, I was in the top 100 on the Eagle Ray channel. I was an OG in the community. That's what it's about. So as you can see, there's nobody in the chat yet because the channel is so young. So we're not going to take any questions today. So we're going to wrap up, but I do want to wish you the best and let you know that the reason that I started this channel in the first place was because I was stuck in a cubicle for a decade writing code just all day long, and I had the beach in LA half an hour away, and I was never able to go. And it drove me crazy. So when COVID happened, I said, no more of this. I'm going somewhere where I can get on the water several times a week, and that's what I did. That's why this channel exists. And I hope that you can give yourself at least an occasional treat like that as well. Getting out into your local environment, enjoying the sun, enjoying a local body of water if you can, is so therapeutic. I can't even describe it for you. You must do it. If you like boating, get out on the water, boat safe, but don't forget the most important thing is to enjoy yourself. With that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you have a good one and take care.